Okay, how many of you watched The Incredible Hulk in the past? All right. How many of you tried to pretend you were that big, that strong, that cool? How many of you have tempers in real life that are like The Incredible Hulk? Okay? All right, cool. Well, that's what Lou Ferrigno's most known for, but he does a lot of stuff. And how many of you saw him on The Celebrity Apprentice recently?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So, he's an American actor, a motivational speaker, fitness trainer, consultant, and retired professional bodybuilder. Most recently, he launched a fitness and lifestyle website with his family focused on positive habits, lifestyles, and ideas, and that's FerrignoFit.com. He's best known for portraying the title role in the CBS television series The Incredible Hulk, but he's had a very diverse and colorful life, overcoming many personal challenges and adversities, and he will inspire and motivate you. And the way that I met Lou was through my dear friend Robin Robbins, who you're going to hear speak later in this conference. And we went to dinner when I was out in Nashville. We had dinner last night, and we had lunch today. So we spent quite a bit of time with Lou in the last little bit of time. And the guy's pretty awesome. So give it up for Mr. Lou Ferrigno.
That's great.
Yeah, and Lou's going to talk for a bit, then we're going to do some Q&A, okay? So, awesome, dude. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm awesome.
All right, how's it going?
Perfect.
Good. Getting hot over here.
Yeah.
How are you, everyone? I promise this will not be boring. I'm not here to talk about having kids for housekeepers, so you know what I'm talking about that. And my wife, she's a fantastic woman. I love California. Anyway, also I'm not going to get fired today. I don't know if you've seen The Celebrity Apprentice, and that was quite an experience for me. You know, I wanted to start out saying that I know you're all involved in marketing and strategy. Myself, my hearing may not be perfect as yours, but I've learned to maximize my personal power. Because every one of us, we're all handicapped one way or another, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. I was able at an early age to take all that because my motto is about embracing the fear factor and maximizing your personal power. You see, when I was a kid, right now I'm 60 years old. I always like to have fun. But anyway, it's the beginning for me. I know you guys, I don't know how many of you work out, but I'm not going to jump on you guys. But what I want to address to you is that when I was young, I lost like 80% of my hearing. I was extremely introverted. This was back in the early 50s, because back then, you know, I had like ear infection, so they gave a lot of antibiotics, so I had nerve damage, I lost my hearing. So this made me a very introverted as a child. And I had a lot of anger, a lot of pain. And growing up as a kid, I had a very stern father who was the police officer. So, and also at the same time being rejected because I was not the perfect son. I come from a family of 5. So at an early age, you know, I realized I wanted to have a path, something to do, because I was always growing up as a kid. As a child, I was always fascinated with power. And to ease my pain, I used to read a lot of comic books to escape the pain, not to fantasize or to read whole comic books, Superman comic books, to escape the pain, because I used to fantasize being these characters, because I had difficulty speaking, I had difficulty, you know, communicating, because back then they didn't have the hearing yet, the technology they have today. So I was so fascinated with Superman. I just loved Superman, especially when he'd jump out of the window. Back then, you know, my friends and I, when I was young, I hardly had any friends because I was very introverted. I really thought that Superman could fly. So one day I put a red blanket on my neck, and I was standing at the top of the stairs, and I pretended like Superman to jump. I didn't go flying, I came crashing down. And I said to myself that I'm never going to read Superman comics again. So I ended up reading Hulk comics, because I related to the Hulk because the Hulk was me. So escaping the pain, I was like a real-life Walter Mitty. And I was as a child, I was had a lot of fear inside of me. But you know, I was always passionate about this power thing. Because you know, in life, you know, the fear factor, fear leads to hate. Then that hate leads to the anger leads to suffering. And we had to have the negative and the positive. I decided to have a path So one day I went to a store buying a lot of comic books. I would trade comic book for comic book. So I saw a magazine that said Muscle Power. I saw a guy in the cover, his name was Dave Draper, and I said, wow, it says Mr. America, Mr. Universe. I didn't realize this guy has muscle. There is a Mr. Universe competition. So I took the book home, I read every page, I learned everything I can about bodybuilding, about muscle building, about training, everything. I probably wore out all the print, but I was so fascinated with it because it was a connection. You see, most of us today train this. We neglect this. We need to combine the body and the mind as a team. That's so important because later in life, you lose your body. It's very hard to regain it unless you take a serious approach. Like people have heart attacks suddenly, they're changing their diet, they're riding bicycles, because at the age of 35, the muscle begins to atrophy. That's why it's important to be very consistent. There's 4 things I've learned in life. It's persistence, determination, motivation, and self-belief. Those 4. And that leads to passion and personal power. So that's why in the early age I got involved learning about weight training because I was so fascinated with strength. I remember back then I couldn't afford weights, so I had like a cement pail I filled with cement. I got a broomstick. I put the broomstick in the 2 pails of cement, and I'll never forget when I started to work out, I loved the feeling of the resistance. And I knew I was doing something good for myself because back then they didn't have the publicity about bodybuilding, about fitness, because back in those days, many coaches, people would say if you work out, you become muscle-bound, no brain, no brawn, whatever. So that made me realize I had a path to choose. So I stuck to that path because I was so passionate about it, because even though I wasn't doing well in school, because of the hearing situation, I never told people that I had a hearing problem, even though I had a speech problem, because I didn't want to be treated differently. So what I did is basically I went to school and I got by with the grades. I would come home, I would just want more than anything to work out with the weights because it just gave me a good feeling because it just helped my pain. Because back then, as a young kid, we have a lot of anger. We have a tendency to transfer that anger to other people. I didn't know any better because children do not have the psychological defenses to defend themselves against ridicule and insult. So what do? They channel in, blaming themselves, blaming their parents, blaming other things, and you have a self-defeated attitude. So I decided to take the positive approach because no one's going to do anything for me for myself. This is all about taking action. The reason why I'm talking to you about this is because every one of us inside, we have that little kid, you have that personal power, and you want to maximize that, and you want to be passionate about it. That would take you far in the long run. That's the richest gift you could give yourself in life. So to me, it was the fitness thing. And then from that time on, I kept believing, because back then there was no money in competition, there was no money in bodybuilding, but I just loved it. A perfect example, one time I was in school, I wasn't doing well in school, so I came home, and my father said to me, go in the basement. So back then I had weights and everything from my uncle, like barbell plates and dumbbells. It was like a small little gym. I went downstairs, all the weights were chained up. He had this big chain, 8 feet of chain. And he said, when you pass in school, I'll unlock that chain for you. So he worked the night shift. He would go to work like 4 o'clock and come home 6 in the morning. So I was so determined to work out, came home from school. What I did is I got a hacksaw, I went down quietly, and I cut open one of the lengths of the chain. Got 2 pliers, opened it, took the chain, worked out, put the chain back. Each time I put the chain back, I would lose 1 link. So a week later, my dad sees everything on the floor, and he sees that all these weights piled up like this chair instead of spread out 8 feet. And he looked at me and he said, what is this? I said, I don't know. So he said, if you pass in school, I'll let you keep training if you pass in school. So I remember that early age, this is something I wanted so bad. So from that point on, I decided that why not one day try competing in competition. So I was 19. People laugh about the fact that I want to go and get involved in competition. So I ended up going to competition. I was 19 years old. It was my first contest. I never forget, I was on stage posing. I see flashbulbs going off, people clapping, cheering, and I said, this is what I really want. This is my path. And I'm glad I believed in myself. That's why it's so important, because, all of us, we always feel that sometimes agents in the way, you have different things to blame. Even though when you're at a company for 30 years, it doesn't matter because you always could reinvent and embark yourself upon new things, especially with technology today, especially with marketing. It all comes down to how you feel about yourself dealing with people. If you don't feel good about yourself, it's going to affect everything else you do. You see, I always believe in replacing the fear hormone with positive hormone. That's about combining the mind, the body, the team. That's why every day, like yourself in the business you are, it's important to get involved in some kind of training to take care of your body because you want to be a better friend to your body. This is so important because my family, my wife, all my kids were all personal training. And I never thought that I'll be 60 years old, still have the same passion because what I believed in. Because passion is so powerful because like personal power moves mountains. You know, everyday life is a battlefield. Every day we wake up, we have to fight to survive. It had to do with the children, it had to do with the wife, it had to do with the spouse, it had to do with the environment, it had to do with the job situation, it had to do with marketing. Sometimes you get no, 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 no. Sometimes you get 7 no's before you get a yes. It's all about believing and being passionate about it. You get knocked down, you get up. My whole life is about getting knocked down and getting up. I believe, adversity builds character. So when I was about 19 and 20, I had difficulty speaking. You know, in life today, public speaking is the number one fear in life. It really is. I'm sure you're familiar with that. If someone told me 40 years ago I'd be a public speaker, I would have ran away. I'd be terrified because you stand in front of people, you're judging yourself and you're worrying about what people think of you. That was basically me because the fact that I was always being made fun of. So when I did it, I got involved doing speech therapy. I had to learn to study by speaking of the feeling of my tongue. As a child, all over to learn how to speak. This all comes back to that fear factor. You have a fear factor, all about minimizing that fear factor, and the positive factor increases because we come from different environments, and we had different parents, and we're raised in a certain way, and fear had to do with obesity, had to do with alcohol, had to do with drugs, had to do with crime, many, many different things. The most powerful thing is basically reducing that fear because every day, like I said, it's like a battlefield, and when you encounter a problem, like sometime in a work situation, you cannot let that fear dominate you. It's all about the positive side, dominating the fear. It may be impossible to eliminate those fears completely, but all you can do is really minimize it and being very consistent with that persistence. That would take you far where you want to go. So I got to the point that I learned to speak well. I ended up doing like over 30 films, different TV shows and everything because of the fact that I really believed that I could change that because my whole life was being consistent. And that's taken me where I want to go because I feel like now at the beginning. So that's why last season I got a phone call. I talked to Donald Trump. And I said, I want to be on the Celebrity Apprentice because my whole life, they always portrayed me as bodybuilders like myself, as a big body, but no voice. But the people get the impression that the bodybuilder was not bright. So I did the Celebrity Apprentice to show that I was a businessman. I was able to endure the boardroom, the tax, the project. It was the best experience of my life. But at the same time, you have to fight for your life because you don't want to get fired. Because every day in that boardroom is the one take. You never know what's going to happen. And you had to be able to endure the insults and avoid getting fired. It's like a big chess game. So this is basically my whole life, my whole situation. So that's why the belief I had, all this consistency and the motivation is taken to me what I am now. The sky's the limit. We're here for a short time. We're not here for 3,000 years. My life now is more than half over. I do not want to wait till I'm 85 or 90 or maybe 80, look back and say, I should have done this, I should have done that. You do it now. It's all about taking action now. That's so important because if you don't, you're going to regret, you're going to hate yourself, and you're going to hate others and blame others. You only blame yourself. A perfect example, a long time ago, I've been personal training now for 30 years. So I was training this girl one time, she must have been about 25, 24 years old, she was overweight. And normally I see people from all over the world, I give diets, and basically I tell them what to eat, how to train. So she's been with me for like a month, and she hasn't lost a pound. Usually when I train people, I'm very successful at it, and I demand results. So the next day I said, well, okay, you need to come 3 times a week. So the next day I greeted her outside front of my house. She pulled up her car, I think it was a small car, so she knows I was standing outside. So she happened to open the back door from the side. I see about 8 to 10 donuts come rolling out of the car. I'm talking about 8 to 10 donuts rolling down the street. And I said, what is it? And she looked at me, she started to cry. She said, why go home? I go on the computer. I have a tendency to eat because I was abused as a child. My father was in the concentration camp. I wanted to fill myself up, to kill all those feelings inside of me. That's why most of you, business marketing strategy, we have so much feeling inside of us. A lot of times you're in front of a computer because most of the time you're sitting down, and most of the time all of us are damaged one way or the other, but we fulfill that part of us with food. And we eat the wrong food, we don't exercise. That affects everything else you do. It's so important to have that combination of the food, the fitness, and everything, to eat properly, train properly, sleep properly. That affects your attitude of life, your thinking process, everything. People run to doctors, they want to take drugs, they want to take speed, they want to take vitamins to lose weight, they want everything the easy way. But it's very simple. Like I said, we all make it very complicated. It's all about maximizing that personal power and embracing that fear factor. I love fear. I love embracing fear. You know why? Because I know that once I embrace fear, it helps me become more successful. I find that very exciting. Just like, for example, someone who gets married, they're nervous about getting married, new job situation. You put all those thoughts in your head. You're afraid of being rejected. You are going to be rejected. You're afraid of being fired. You are going to be fired. Like you give a speech, you go on stage, you want to talk, and you're nervous what to talk about, you're going to look nervous. The same as an actor. It's show. But it's you. That how you feel about yourself, that self-belief in yourself, that motivation, that passion. That's why if you embrace that passion will take you forever, whatever you want to do. And that's why, like myself, I've done theater, I've done stage plays, because I had a father that always said, if you had your hearing, you could have done this. If you had your hearing, you could have done this. All these dreams he had that I told him that I could have, I become. 8 years ago, I became a deputy sheriff. Because my father was a lieutenant, and 2 weeks ago, I got promoted to be lieutenant. 40 years ago, it was an impossible situation. If I even talked about that, because I grew up with a lot of negativity. I had a love and hate relationship with my father. But I was able to take the positive road. That is so important because, you can't run away from fear. How many times, I just see, for example, people taking vacations, they go on vacation, they assume to have a great time, and they're having a lot of problems in their life. You're not running away from your problem. The problems are with you. You're on vacation, you're eating, you're drinking, you gain 10 to 15 pounds, you're then getting a heart attack, and then when you go home, the problem's still there. You can't run away from the problem. You want to just deal with the problem and deal with that. And every time you have a fear or a problem, you can always minimize it, meaning that every time you have a challenge, it gets easier and easier. If you want to sell a house, if you want to do business $1 million or 500,000, why not take it one step above? If you fail, so what? You learn from your failures, but you have to take those steps. You see, all of us in life, everybody has the pattern, for example, like to lose weight. I would say 90% of the people that have lost weight, like 40, 50 pounds, they gain it back. Why? Because, okay, I'm losing 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. Suddenly they stop here. Why? Because they have to embrace the new lifestyle, how they look, how do people think of you, and how you feel. I can't handle it. 30, 25, 20, 10, boom, boom, right back to before. That's what happened. Because it's a failure mechanism. A lot of us have this failure mechanism. And everybody wants to know why I'm so successful when I've done with myself. It's because that's why I always say it's 110%. It's all about taking those steps to be successful. Go beyond that failure mechanism, that barrier, knowing that open doors, this is the unknown successful, and I can break more, I can be more successful. That's the most powerful thing you can have in your life. It's all about that passion, that personal power inside of you. Money, everything is secondary. It's all how you feel on the inside, dealing with those situations. Money, relationships, everything comes. That's why it's so important. I say the two greatest things they have in life. It's great personal power, great friends, and great family value. That's so important because later in life, what do you have? If you got $1 billion, if you're sick, if you got pancreatic cancer or something, the doctor's not going to cure you. If you give them a check for $500,000, it's all about taking care of yourself. That's so important. The mind, the body, the fitness, to combine as a team. That will enable you to succeed and be able to go through anything in life if you want to achieve. That's one like myself at the beginning because there's many more things I want to do. And I know that I look in the mirror and say to myself, I still work out the same, even though I train is heavy. You know, I've had both knees, I've had both hips replaced. But I'm still able to train. It's wear and tear because I have arthritis. My mother had arthritis. But because I'm in good shape, I take care of myself, I'm able to perform and work out like today. People who are not in shape and don't care to exercise, they're still walking with a limp, even though they have a hip and knee replacement. This is so important because you can have it all here, the mind does everything, but you cannot go like this. You combine 100% of the team, you got to make it. Anyway, I want to spend some time on stage, do a Q&A. That's what I'm here for. I just want to intervene with you guys and everything and have some fun because I could talk for another half hour, another hour, on and on, but I just want to have questions and maybe we could take it from there. And Joe could come on stage and we could just have some fun.
Thank you. Dean, can you get that other one, please? All right, so you know what I want to do? I want to bring Robin Robbins up here for a minute, just because I want to acknowledge Robin, and Robin's awesome. So,
Let's get another one for
yeah.
Robin.
I'll stand, and Robin can sit.
Okay.
Let's go.
So how are we going to do the questions? They'll come to the microphone?
Yep, if anyone has a question for Lou, we'll have you come to the mic. First come, first serve.
You want me up here?
I want you up here because I want you to ask Lou a little bit about, because you spent a good deal of time with him at your conference, and you talked to him about a lot of stuff, and I think you'd have some good questions about perspective and about everything from Celebrity Apprentice to adversity, all that stuff. And give it up for Robin Robbins. She's a rock star. Okay.
My arms are almost as big as Lou's. Almost.
Have you told them that one time you competed?
Yes, I competed one time.
Yeah, it's amazing. We were talking last night that, the dieting is the hardest part, but what I love about Robin, talking to Robin, she's a risk taker. Nothing stands in her way, and she maximized she had because most women should be like this, because a lot of men have less respect for women. I'm proud because this is what you call a positive businesswoman.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's a compliment, right? Coming from the Hulk.
And one more thing I want to say. I got a friend of mine in the back who's sitting down. I met this man 10 years ago. He lived here. He worked for IBM. When he started with me, I trained him at the beginning. This guy, you wouldn't recognize him. Today, 10 years later, this man's only 51, and he changed his body astronomically. It's incredible. Please say hello to my friend, Mr. Scott Fuller.
Okay, so, I found Lou basically watching The Celebrity Apprentice. I was watching it one night, and I saw Lou, and the episode that I came in at was not actually the beginning, but it was the one where you won, I think, was it $10,000 or $20,000 for muscular dystrophy when you won?
50,000.
50,000, yeah. So, and what really impressed me was the fact, I'm thinking, here's this guy, like he said, everybody discounted. Everyone said, oh, he's a bodybuilder, he's dumb, speech impediment. And if you watch the series, you can see that throughout, the comments that people made and so forth. And when I saw your face and your reaction to winning that, being able to give that money to that charity, I thought, this guy is awesome. And my husband was there. And I said, I got to have this guy at my boot camp because he's overcome so much in his life. He's accomplished so much. I mean, today, think about your series, The Hulk, ran for 5 seasons, right? I mean, you are the Hulk. How many of you can remember the other guy? Who was the other guy that actually played like nobody even knows? Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like he could walk in the lobby and nobody would know who he was. But this guy, he's got this brand, he's got this image, and he's incredibly smart. So I invited him to my boot camp. My clients loved him. He got a standing ovation. And I think the thing that really impresses me is that Lou, although he's accomplished so much in his life and overcome some incredible adversity, he's the most humble, down-to-earth guy. I mean, he went to dinner last night with us. You took time with my clients. You don't get the impression that this guy's trying to impress you. He doesn't need to impress you because he's got confidence in himself, and you're an amazing human being for that. And so I just, that's the thing I'm impressed with the most. Because usually when you get somebody who's accomplished as much as you have, they're walking around with bodyguards and they're all puffed up and everything else. And Lou is not like that at all. So he's very, very impressed that way. The other thing that really impressed me, and I guess a question we can start off with and then have people come up, but if you watch The Celebrity Apprentice, that is an intense environment, and it's designed to create controversy, to almost bring out the worst in you.
Well,
right?
really, you have 18 egos in the show.
Yeah.
And myself, the other people in the show are very successful in their field. Like, for example, if you take Penn Jillette, other people, they're extremely well informed. We're talking about artists, musicians, singers, and everything. I went with the attitude, like what I told you when I taught you the last half hour, the belief I had. If I suddenly start to think that I'm inferior, they are so much better because they have perfect hearing, they have this, I refuse to believe that. That's why I was the only athlete to make it to 9 shows, because dealing with this, I was honored and the truth. And also, it's amazing as the show continued, the show went on. When I had to deal with the insult, like for example, like Lisa Lapinelli, the vulgarity and the language, I handled myself like a soldier, because some people still have no respect. They want to bring you to that level. I don't want to go there. So it's an interesting experience. It shows you like yourself in this, whatever field you're dealing with, you're dealing with those kind of people. They can be very condescending, an arrogant attitude, but the most important thing is how you feel by yourself, trust yourself. You can handle that situation. Do not let that belittle you. So that's why I was fighting again. And the show basically is a one-take show. It wasn't scripted. So, and most of the time they want to focus on the negativity.
So so that's the question. How did you keep that level of professionalism and who you are in that environment? That was, I mean, you had people that were just, I mean, I don't know that I could have handled myself as well as you did. How did you maintain your integrity and professionalism, I guess, in that environment?
Well, because I'm so passionate about what I do in life and everything, giving up like 110%, I just knew when it came to the task that everyone is out for their own skin, and basically you have a project attack. Like, for example, something that I'm not done before, I will open myself to learn. Like, I may not be an expert with computers, but there's other things I can do. So you're open to learn. Even though you'll be ashamed to ask for someone to help you, then have an ego saying, you know, I'm very successful, I can do all that, because you only harm yourself. So my belief was a self-belief, knowing that I'm going to walk away, I could not give any more. So when it came to the tax, it's interesting, I learned, but the good news is that when it came to the boardroom, I was basically just very honest. Because if you're not honest, if you lie, it's going to backfire to you. You can't be honest. When you're honest, you can't go wrong. But that's why Mr. Trump respected me, because he came from nothing. Even though he had a wealthy father, but Trump built his own empire. It's all about branding. I've learned so much about branding since I've done The Apprentice. You know, it makes me more motivated in business, because my whole life growing up, I built an empire, but I was never a businessman like these people, because most of my life I was working out to be a champion bodybuilder and actor. Most actors are not business people. So when you're in that situation, I had to deal with that. So it's a great learning process, but it's always that self-belief and knowing that nothing's going to defeat me. I'm just going to give 110%. Very simple.
All right. That's pretty awesome. Do you need me to stay up here? It's up to you. Do you want me to hang out in the hot seat?
Yeah.
Dude, hang out in the hot seat.
All right, I'll hang out in the hot seat because
All right.
I feel very comfortable there.
Cool.
Perfect.
All
Do you
right.
want to make sure? You sure you want to let me have a mic?
You know, I'm totally
take it
fine.
back.
The redhead in the hot seat is
Red's
pretty.
head in the hot seat.
Yeah. So last night, and then we'll take these questions. I just want you to talk about when we were on dinner. You're talking about 4 keys of success that I wrote down: persistence, determination, motivation, consistency. What do you mean by that?
Well, motivation is all about motivating yourself. Consistency is used because consistent, like for example, in society today, we went to high school, we have elementary school, the government is consistent about that. You can't basically make your own hours. It's all about consistent, like for example, working out. If you work out like 3 or 4 days a week, you cannot train 1 day a week and be in great shape. That's consistent, consistency. That's so important. And the other key element is persistent. And you know, the self-belief, knowing that you have all these qualities, the self-belief, being very persistent. Like everything you do, I just give it all. But especially like when it comes to training, like diet, nutrition, when it comes to business, you need the education, you need all the tools. Like for example, in business marketing strategy, you want to know how to use the computer, you want to know how to utilize all the tools to make yourself successful and dealing with people, networking, talking to other people. unpack about everything about the whole scope of the personality. It's just not the computer. It had to do with personality, had to do with networking, had to do with communicating, and the most important thing of all is selling yourself, believing yourself, and promoting yourself.
That's what I'm trying to say. Cool. So let's do some questions. Say who you are and then your question.
Hey Lou, my name is Jody. First of all, thanks for coming. My question specifically is, I am one of those gentlemen that you described as, self-sabotage, I'll do great for a while, gain it back, those kinds of things. And I've often said to my staff that I would be extraordinarily unstoppable if I could actually get my workout regimen and my routine in place. So how did you ever have a point, or how did you deal with self-sabotage issues, ones where it's like you build the consistency for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and then you fall off the wagon, and then you think, oh, okay, it's all lost, even to the point to where I photoshopped my head onto the ultimate body and put it in the snack jar, and none of that seems to work. So any advice would be great.
I think you were saying about being not sabotaging himself by being consistent when it comes to training.
Yeah, pretty much.
You have short-term goals and long-term goals. If you never worked out before, you see the bigger change in 3 months. The important thing is the fact that you take a picture of yourself at the beginning, even now. Every 2 or 3 months, take a picture. But this is the combination that has to do with the diet, the training. Now, I feel it's so important when you work out, every time you go to the gym, do different exercises, never do the same thing, because that creates boredom. And also, I'll pack my gym bag, like for example, say I'm going to do chest, I'm going to wear maybe like a dark tank top. I'm going to see my chest. If I'm going to do legs, I wear like a t-shirt. I usually write down my routine, what I want to do. I always judge the mirror. You never go by the scale, because sometimes when you gain weight, you gain muscle, muscle burns fat. Like for example, say I take this gentleman here. I train him intensely for 3 months. And say he weighs, I'm just making this up, say he weighs 165 pounds. 3 months he may weigh 165 pounds, but he maybe lost 10 or 12% body fat, but he might be more muscular. Because it's not the scale or the tape measure, it's how you look in the mirror. The most important thing of all is the diet, it's how you eat. It's important, like for example, yourself to eat protein every meal. Because after 7 o'clock at night, if you have a tendency to overeat, then you start to feel bad about yourself, knowing that you throw like a garbage pail, just filling up the garbage, and then indirectly, internally, that affects your workout. It's so important. Diet and nutrition, 75%. If you're drinking wine, if you're drinking other things, you want to minimize that. But that's the whole key. Like after 7 o'clock at night, basically, cut down on your carbs. So if you follow this pattern and be very consistent about it, that carries everything. The old days, you go to the gym twice a week, and then suddenly if you lose 5 pounds, and then you go to the gym a week later, work out 1 day a week, it's not going to work. It's all about the consistency, the regularity, everything, like 3 times a week. If you're traveling, like for example, if I have to travel, say for example, say I'm flying to Europe, I'll train every day for 6 to 7 days. I could take 2 days off, but I keep my diet the same. Now, here's another factor. Whatever food you eat and you grew up on, that you like, just cut in half. The worst thing you can do, anyone can do, for example, change the diet dramatically, eat like a great food for breakfast, 1 egg, and especially your whole life you're eating like meat, or you may be eating like pasta or whatever. If you eliminate all that and shift to another diet, I don't believe in dieting. That's just going to harm you. And your body's going to say, screw it, man, I want to go back how I felt before. So the food you've been eating, just cut down portion size, calories. It's really very simple, and you won't sabotage yourself anymore.
Cool. We'll start with you in the back since you were waiting the longest, because Jeff Moore right here is kind of a hurtful man. Yeah, I know. Don't try to get out of it, Jeff.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Hi, Lou. My name's Paul. I just have a question that as people age, and especially when you talk about doing shortcuts, what's your opinion on people using HGH, or especially with men as they age, like using testosterone supplements, that it seems like that, I don't know if that's even more of a shortcut or if it's just a better way for people to continue to work out as they age and as the body's unable to do what it used to?
Well, if you do have a very low testosterone and you go to a doctor, if he requires testosterone legal, then I would recommend it from your doctor, because when you get older, everyone has a different testosterone level. That affects how you feel, if it's necessary. But It's not just for the average person to shoot up GH and take testosterone to feel good and look great, because sometimes it doesn't affect you, it doesn't do anything. It's all if the body really needs it. Now, if you're consistent and passionate about training on a regular basis, you really don't need it unless you really have to. But everybody wants a shortcut. It's the excuse. You know how many guys, for example, over the years, they come to me and they've taken all kinds of steroids and say, I'm on a cycle, I'm doing this. They look in the mirror, they maybe have a quarter of an inch, or they'll look any different. And they take tons and tons of drugs. Before you know it, get involved with recreational drugs. They end up harming themselves. That's why it's important, though. Most people, like you see, for example, you see, I'm not going to mention names, you see people in the film business, they have that ripped look from the GH and everything, but you can't do it forever. But the thing is, under a doctor's care, if it's necessary, for example, if you have low testosterone and it affects your sex drive, that's a little different, but not in an abusive situation. But if you're really consistent about training and everything, I personally think you don't need it unless you really have to.
So let's go to, I guess, Jeff, and then we'll go back to.
Aside from the obvious argument to this question, but if a person only had 20 minutes a day to work out, if you only had 20 minutes a day to work out and to get the very most out of that 20 minutes a day, what would you do every single day?
Well, let me ask you a question. Why you only have 20 minutes?
That was the obvious. No, I'm just, that wasn't, that, I understand that. But if you're traveling, you've got some crazy schedules and stuff like that, and you absolutely positively tell yourself, I'm going to spend, no matter what, I'm going to get up and spend 20 minutes a day doing it. It'll turn into 30 minutes a day. We know it'll turn into 40 minutes a day. But for the mindset purposes, if there was something that you only had 20 minutes a day to work out, what would that 20 minutes consist of?
Okay, I'll tell you a trick. If you only had 20 minutes a day, not having a gym, if you're in a hotel, I would start out with a 10-minute brisk walk, push-up and sit-up, and stretching, 20 minutes. Do that 4 or 5 days a week. That'll keep you going. If you have a gym, get in the treadmill with 10 minutes, and then do one exercise, each body part, one exercise, one set for 10 minutes. That'd be a 20-minute workout.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Lou. I'm a big fan of yours. You actually inspired me to get into physique competitions after watching Pumping Iron.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so my name is Vince Dalmani, by the way, and I gain a lot of insights out of people's daily schedules. So I was wondering if you could just quickly go through a day in the life of Lou Ferrigno, how you structure your day, boundaries you set. It's basically what it looks like from morning to night.
Well, how I structure my workout, are you talking about?
Your whole day, from morning to night, your business, everything.
Well, for example, what I do is I train in the morning because in the afternoon, because being 60, I don't have the energy like I used to have. I learned to conserve my energy. Over the years ago, I would train maybe 4 or 5 in the afternoon, train heavy. I would work all day as a sheet metal worker. What I do now is first thing in the morning, I wake up, I would just have some protein, and then I go to the gym. I train from maybe like 8 to 9 o'clock. 1 hour. 40 minutes of a body part, 2 body parts, and do some cardio. That's what I would do every morning. If I want to do cardio in the afternoon. But you'd be surprised a lot of time when you're working out, you say, well, 4 o'clock this afternoon, I'll go back to the gym, I'll do some more cardio than ab. When 4 o'clock comes, you have distractions. Sometimes you're too tired, you won't do it. But it's all about, for me, some people may need to do in the evening, it depends on your schedule, but you got to make that time. That's your time. Not talking on cell phone, not texting and everything. That time, go to the gym. It's your time for yourself. Nothing else stops you specifically. That's the important key. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was kind of interested too in just like how you get you manage your energy, manage your time. So your gym, business meetings. Do you stop working at 6 o'clock? Do you do everything? What does a day in the life look like after
You mean
the
my
workouts?
day?
Yeah, the whole day.
Well, for example, after I finish working out, I have business calls, business things to do. And plus, I have a wife and 3 kids, and also the fact that, I'm doing different things. For example, I'm a deputy sheriff. Sometimes I put my time into that. A lot of times I have a lot of different good hobbies and stuff, talking sometimes to friends. But most of the time I'm booking appearances, doing different things. A lot of times I read, for example, my favorite pastime, I like to read different publications about life and everything, like, for example, good movie. But during the day, I'm very active. You only can train for so long, but I'm always active in creating new things. things I want to do with my life, making things happen, and then networking and everything. That's what I enjoy doing because you can't live without people. Life is all about people. So I try to have a lot of human contact as well.
That's great. Thank you. My wife also wanted me to mention that she thinks I look like your younger brother, even though you're the same age as my father.
Looks like your younger brother.
Yeah. Yeah, for that right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Yeah.
My name is Diane. My company is Healing Dives, and I wanted to find out if you've ever tried a portable hyperbaric chamber, and if you're a fan of hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
You gotta repeat that.
Hyperbaric oxygen chambers. If you're a fan of hyperbaric oxygen treatment, if you've ever used it.
I've never done it, but I heard about it. And it's been positive. I know some people have that. Then if it works for you, give it a shot. Why? What's your concern about?
I sell them
No, her business is she sells them. Yeah, she sells hyperbaric
to
oxygen.
athletes. A lot of professional
I think
athletes
it's almost
use
the
them.
same thing. I know that the fact that if you have surgery, I think that basically speeds up the healing. Am I correct?
And it also boosts performance,
Yeah.
it boosts recovery, it boosts energy levels, mitochondrial function. A lot of athletes use it to kind of turn back the clock of aging, so they perform like they did 10 or
I'd love to
15 years
try it.
ago. Where are you located? You in LA?
Yeah, but you know something, in this day and age today where we're living, why not? Because we have all the tools and everything, because 40, 50 years ago we didn't have this, so why not? The
It
more-
floods your body with oxygen, it's natural,
Have you got
and
one
it's
here?
legal. Well, I'm going to try to get Joe to buy one, and then you can use
Okay.
his.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna buy my friend Dr. Daniel Amen. He's brain doctor.
He's got one.
Yeah, I've done some hyperbaric oxygen treatment in a big chamber, so now it's looking. Yeah, and a lot of people. I mean, there was one person that had been literally paralyzed, and I mean, no response. Was born this way, and the parents would bring him into the hyperbaric oxygen, and after about 30 treatments, this person started responding. Pretty amazing.
Does it have gamma rays and you change into
Yeah. It's like you become like Hellboy or something, you know? Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
We'll have to get him in one. Well, do they make ones that will fit him
We
though?
have big ones. We have like a huge one for enormous athletes.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
If I could fit in it.
Yeah,
You will, as long as you're not claustrophobic.
awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Lou, you said you just turned 60. I just had a question. If you could go back 30 years and give yourself advice at 30 years old, what would you tell yourself?
About training or about life?
About life, more important.
You know, that's a good question. It would be hard because I think if I went back many, many more years, I think I would have probably asked for more advice or reach out more than being so involved with myself. Because being introverted, I know how to communicate, I know how to talk to people. I think I probably would have just maybe, you only could do what you do. But what I've learned now, what I know now, I don't want to be 90 or 80 and say, if I was 60 years old, would I have done something different? So now I'm making up for it. Because when I was young, I didn't have computers because computers, you could read, you could text and everything. We didn't have those. I would say if I had to put it back, I'd probably be able to maybe want to compete at earlier age. And probably maybe gone more involved, maybe in networking with people, maybe getting involved, maybe taking some acting lessons or something. Because back in my time, because of where I was, it was almost like I was hidden. Because today, anybody that have a disability, is very successful. But at my time, dealing with that disability, it was a form of rejection. Like you don't want to be seen. So I would say I was taking more action back then.
And build good relationships young.
And building. Did you say building?
Yeah, building relationships. I mean, you said
because-
networking and
well,
meeting
I had a father that constantly beat me down. I mean, I learned work ethic from him. I had a love and hate relationship with my father. And anytime I was happy about achieving something, he would knock it down because he could not embrace success. So I had to fight with that. I think I want to move out sooner if I was able to. That would help me because the moving away, I was able to grow up sooner. And I ended up moving out when I was like maybe 20, 21. I became a sheet metal worker, but still, when you're dealing with that, they say that you could choose your friend, but you can't choose your parent. So you have to accept the best you can accept. That's the way they are. They're not going to change. So basically, you have to change yourself because you're still your parents and everything, but you have to deal with the fact that they're thinking, but you have to think of yourself what you're passionate about, and don't let that dominate you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, Lou. Thank you so much. I just appreciate the inspiration. One of my questions is, what's next? I mean, you've got a good number of years left. 30 years ago. I'm just curious about the next 30 years. So what's left on your bucket list?
Well, I have a movie that's coming out called The Liberator. It's about a government agent that was rejected from the military. And he wanted to write a book to expose the truth, and they're out to kill him. So it's a good action film. And also, I'm talking to different networks. I really want to do another sitcom because I did King of Queens for 7 years, and I love doing comedy. And the movie, I Love You, Man. But I like that instant gratification, so my goal is to get involved in another sitcom, making movies. But what I really want to do is have a Lou Ferrigno Fitness and Health Expo. My whole family, like Ferrigno Fit, we want to change the world, we want to change the country, change lifestyles, everything, because all of us, we're the only family in the country that's involved with fitness, knowing that somebody can come to a convention, not bodybuilding, but fitness, medical, chiropractic, everything in one roof. Parents come with their kids, because what I've done with my life, the way I look, that they could learn from that and embrace it. That's my ultimate goal.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Hey Lou, I am a doctor of chiropractic. I've really connected with you, sitting here talking about the ear infections and the medical profession, just wanting to inundate people with drugs and medicines and everything. Like your Ferrigno Fit, I've got a website that we're in the process of building out. It's a venture we're working on called IE Lifestyle. In you, everything exists is the acronym for IE. And what we have is we have a all-natural ear infection product that eliminates ear infections pretty much within a day. So because that's what you suffered with and put you in the position where you are, what has been your fight on the ear infection front?
Well, back then, even today, antibiotics is very regulated, because in my time, they just gave antibiotics because back then, there's so much antibiotic as a child that caused nerve damage. And there's a lot of people my age that gone through the same thing. And, because of the medication, because when my mother didn't even know I had a hearing problem until I was like 3 or 4 years old. She would clap her hands like this. I wouldn't respond. I'm making this weird sound. So one day she saw pus coming out of my ears. She took me to the doctor because he prescribed taking antibiotics and periodically and everything. That's what caused the harm. I think today there's so many changes. Now you have cochlear ear implant, you have a steam implant, and they're implanting like even babies and kids. Because at a young age, like for example, if you go back like 50, 60 years ago, if I was born today, it would be a lot easier because of the technology to avoid these problems and everything. But what separates me from anybody, I had to work so hard to speak the way I speak now, because anybody else with my kind of a hearing loss would not sound like a normal person. So that's why it's so important, though, to go to the proper ear and nose throat doctor and even get 2 opinions, get the proper test before you start giving medication, depending on, make sure it's related to the particular problem, especially with the hearing loss, because hearing loss works in many different ways. You could lose your hearing like music, kids wear iPods and everything. You only have one set of ears. And it's important to protect that, but it's good that you have the proper doctor for the right treatment and everything. That's so important.
Right. It falls along the lines of the natural supplement line, It's a non-drug approach. So do you and your family, do you do any of the non-drug approach, the natural supplementation and stuff for your family?
Yeah, I mean, I see a chiropractor every week now, and also I believe all the natural, like, supplements, for example, for like inflammatory kind of drugs, all the natural stuff. I'm a big believer in that. Instead of just taking the drugs. Drugs is only necessary if you have a serious illness. But if you take the natural approach like that, I definitely believe in that. That's so important because that prevents further illness, that prevents surgery, prevents many different things. But like I said before, it's all about you taking care of yourself. Not wait till you're really sick, go to a doctor, and the doctor just writes a prescription and gives you a pill. You really have to take care of yourself and take care of your body. That's so important because nobody else can take care of your body but yourself.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we'll do one back here. One more question.
Hi, Lou. I really liked how you mentioned how you really embraced your fear and how you used that to establish positive habits like working out. But I know that a lot of people actually typically avoid their fears and they establish more negative habits. I'm just wondering if you went through a phase where that happened and how you got out of it.
You
Or
want
if
to
you got-
repeat that question? If I cut that,
So he's saying
Yes.
you said how you formulated positive habits to get over fear.
Okay.
And he was asking, sometimes people go into a situation where they develop negative habits to overcome that. And did you ever go through a period like that?
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm not perfect. Basically, when I went through my life, I had to go through that. But the thing is, sometimes you're in an environment with negative people that can affect you. But you have to, if I were you, I would write all the things on paper that you're passionate about, that what makes you feel good. And anytime you start to feel like that, read it to yourself. Don't show anybody, just read it to yourself. But it's all about taking that action. I've been defeated many times. Sometimes you have a big blow. Of course, you're going to have a bad day, but then the worst thing you can do is really start beating yourself down. Except you could say, what can I learn from this? That's the greatest tool. What can I learn from this? That's what I love about fear. You learn so much. Next time you become successful. It's exciting because all of us have fear. Did you know that Richard Burton, the actor, every time he's done a stage play, he would puke before he go on stage? Yes. Richard Burton, of all people, the famous actor. You get these butterflies, you get nervous. I mean, the same thing with public speaking. But the thing is, it's all about conquering. Like I said before, you replace those fear hormone with positive hormone. My suggestion is that when you start to feel like they have that, work out. That reduces it. That's so important because then you don't want to transfer that anger because fear leads to the anger. Then that anger leads to hate. Then that hate leads to suffering. You go that path. Go the other way. Stop, boop, the other way. Very simple.
Thanks.
Thank you. Gina? Okay, let me say one thing to this, too. I don't know if you've ever read the book Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Yeah. A guy taught me how to actually say that name. But he talks about being in a flow state. And he also says that like an addict uses the same neural pathways in a self-destructive state as a top-performing athlete, entertainer, performer does in a flow state. And what you just said about working out, I mean, working out literally, I think, is more useful in many cases than therapy because it just does something to the human body. And so, anyway, I'll say more. But
well,
Gina.
before you finish, I'm a big believer in getting help for yourself. If you need therapy, I think it's very important because it's important to work on yourself. Everyone is different. And most of us, a lot of people are in denial. They need to get out of denial. And I see so many people, they cry wolf all the time. They say, why? They keep blaming. They have husband. They keep blaming the other person. It's really them. But basically, if you deal with yourself, take care of yourself, that's going to basically be your success.
Awesome. So we have a lot of people watching this via the web stream, and a couple of them have put some questions. And I'll put both of them out there, and you can decide which one you want to answer. I think the first one is, what do you think of Joe Polish? We want to know that.
Well,
what do you think of me?
Well, I'm bigger than him.
You think you can take him then?
Let me tell you something. This man told me his life story yesterday, especially when he was young, especially telling me about the business he started. But Joe really believed in himself and took an action. I mean, he's been through so many failures, but where he came from is incredible. That means that every one of you could do the same thing. It's all about being passionate. He was so passionate about it, that's why he embraced it, because I'm sure you had your fear factor, especially what you've gone through in your life, and you figure, why not take action? Like before, I was talking about the different steps and everything. And that, what you call positive, this is great because misery loves company. Negative people, fine. Don't surround yourself with negative people, keep pulling you down. If they want to be negative, fine, just stay away from them, basically. But Joe's situation, when he's done with his life, is incredible. And I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, and be associated with Joe. I mean, he's quite a human being.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. All right, and the other question was, what's your best advice for someone just starting out in a fitness business?
The best advice someone beginning in the fitness business is that Rome was not built in one day. No matter how you look, how old you are, begin slowly, 3 times a week. I would say train the whole body like 45 minutes to an hour. You know, nice and easy, enjoy it. You want to enjoy what you're doing. Like, for example, when you're working out, you want to enjoy it. You want to be told you have to exercise because you're forced to. That's what I was saying before. When someone has a heart attack or have a disease or something, they're forced to work out. But the thing is just that, take it lightly, and then everything comes into play. You know what's funny? If you go on a diet, for example, say you lose weight, you don't train, it's not the same because you lose weight and then you gain the weight back, but you need to exercise those muscles. It's a combination of the diet, the training, and you feel so much better. I would say someone just starting out training, so I'll go for a walk 15, 20 minutes and go to a gym and do some light exercises, but not the advanced stage, just the beginning stage till the body adapts to it and everything falls into place. But the most important thing is be consistent about it.
I think her real question was that she's starting a business in fitness, in the fitness industry.
Dude, I'd almost say the same sort of device.
Yeah, there you go.
Same thing. And whenever you're passionate about it, and just go for the goal. Just go all the way. But you have to have a vision. It's all about that vision. If you have a vision, you follow that vision.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. And Gina's the one that does all the online stuff at Piranha. She's awesome. So thank you, Gina. Yeah. How many of you would like to take some pictures with Lou? That would be cool. All right, we'll get to that in a moment. Did either of you want to ask Lou anything before we wrap up?
Now, Lou, why don't you let me get him to tell a story.
Okay, perfect.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide whether you should tell your Volkswagen story or tell us about Michael Jackson, because I know we got like 5 minutes left.
You like that Volkswagen story?
I think it's great. You want to tell that? Tell
okay,
that.
I'll
Okay.
do it. All right. I'll do both.
It's funny.
When I was 21, training for competition, at the time I was driving a Volkswagen. And don't ask me how I fit in the Volkswagen. So this was about 2 weeks before the competition, and I worked very hard. I needed to get a good suntan. So it was about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was in my car driving around. I went to the beach. I couldn't find a parking spot. So I drove around. I'm kind of nervous because I didn't want to be driving around for an hour because, you know, back then it was like October, so I had maybe 2 hours of sun. So I drove around the block maybe the fourth time. No one was around. So I saw a small car, it was like a Datsun B210. So I got out of the Volkswagen. I walked to the car. I lifted the back of the car. I lifted and moved a foot to the right. Then I went to the front of the car and lifted and moved a foot to the left. I did this continuously till the car was in the middle of the street. I parked my Volkswagen right into that spot. I said, great, I'm gonna get a suntan now. And then a guy comes screaming, yelling at me, the owner of the vehicle screaming, jumping up and down. And I was like, you know, I want to say anything. At the same time, I see the black and white car, the police car. I see the siren. He pulls up, and the officers, what's going on? And the guy's screaming, yelling and screaming at the officers. This big muscle guy picked up my car. How dare you do this? And everything, screaming and yelling. The guy got a ticket for double parking. He got a second ticket for disturbing the peace. And he got a third ticket for assaulting a police officer. I left for the beach.
Wow. I'm not sure what the success lesson is there, but that's funny. Okay?
Yeah. And that guy was Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Well, I trained Michael Jackson for almost 20 years, and most people didn't know about it because I kept it a secret. So Michael wanted to train 10 o'clock at night. And I said, Michael, you know, I have a wife and kids and everything. I have to charge you a lot more. Fine, no problem. So I said, Michael, I have to charge you significantly more. I mean, we're talking about a lot. That's fine, whatever, I'll write a check. So he comes to my house. I had to put all the lights out. He pulls in the van, opens the gate. Outside, back of my house, I have this facility. He walked in, he got a mask on, got a hat, sunglasses, and the glove. I said, Michael, I said, what is this? He goes, I want people staring at me. I said, Michael, nobody's here. Anyway, he took the gloves off, took the hat off, and everything, started to train. We had a great time. And then another night, he came, the van was in the driveway. I had to keep pour all the lights down. My kids were upstairs. It was like so hard to guard this guy's secret, keep him secret. So Michael comes in the gym, and I see the van, I hear the motor running. And I said, somebody out there? He goes, yeah, a friend of mine's out there. I said, why don't you come in? Let's say none. So I walk out to the van. Who's in the van? It's Marlon Brando. And Marlon's eating, his stomach's like this. And I'm saying, like a Michael Jackson in the gym, have Marlon Brando, I thought I should have him in the gym. And he said, nah, just go train Michael, just make him happy. So anyway, he was in the van, but so many stories. But the funny thing is that Michael only wanted to train 10 o'clock at night to midnight. And it was like being with Dracula. It was so funny. But he was such a good guy. I've learned so much from him. But that's why she liked the story, because late at night, it's so funny that it's almost like having the CIA secretly comes to the house, and then it's so hilarious. And one of my greatest experiences in my life.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yep.
What were you going to say? Yeah. Okay. Well, first off, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Really awesome. And the last thing I'll ask you is that you've always talked about just training harder than anyone, and just so when it comes to the pain that someone's going to go through in order to get to the result, because if it was so easy to be a professional bodybuilder or to be a professional actor or to be a millionaire or whatever, everyone would do it. So there's a certain, I've always loved the term work through the burn, because when you initially start something, you're going to have to initially work through the burn. And so what piece of advice would you say for people that have been inspired by what you've had to say? They've really, it's present in their mind that, yeah, I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start taking care of my body. I'm going to put more effort into whatever it is that I'm passionate about. How do they work through the burn? What did you have to sacrifice in order to get what you've accomplished?
Well, I've always wanted to be a bodybuilder champion because it was a dream of mine. And I told myself, I have to do whatever it takes to win the title to be a champion, because when at the age of 20, 21, I had nothing else. And I wanted to be someone. And I had so much pain and anger in me, and I used that in a positive way to achieve my goal, because if I let anything else stand in the way, it would have defeated me. I wanted to be the best of the best. So I just trained very hard. I studied everything, because even though I was training for a competition, but it was a learning process for me, because it was a goal. It was a long vision. That goal, I want to achieve that goal because it was a lifelong dream of mine. When I have a goal of something, I'm going to go after it no matter what it takes. As long as you have the right attitude and you take the right tools and everything, I was so determined. Did you know most bodybuilders have bad relationships with their fathers? Meaning, for example, as the kid being abused and everything, they wanted to prove to their father, build a shield and say, hey, Pop, you're not going to pick on me anymore. I'm this, I'm powerful. So I had to deal with that, because I wanted to be something, be somebody, because my whole life being told you can't, or if. I don't believe in those words. So to me, to myself, I wanted to prove myself to win that championship, to win the Mr. Universe. And I knew once I achieved that, that could give me the incentive, the motivation, the persistence to do other things in life. It was my path to survive. I had nothing else. So that was my attitude. I'm just going to go after no matter what. Even though I had the genetics and I had a great chance of winning, I said nothing's going to stop me. That's the attitude about life. But it's fun. That's the whole idea.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
Give it up, Mr. Lou Ferrigno. So fantastic. So, thank you. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
That's, yeah.
Thank you. Now go out there when you want to go out there. You can do anything. God bless you.